Hello, my name is Maria, and today I am going to share with you two fairy tales with a unique cultural spin on them. The first tale is an adaptation of a book written by Lawrence Yip titled The Dragon Prince, A Chinese Beauty and the Beast. In this tale, the beast isn't exactly cursed. My adaptation is titled Seven and the Dragon Prince. A long time ago, in a place far across the sea, there lived a poor rice farmer and his seven daughters. Out of all of his daughters, the youngest, Seven, was the most kind and hardworking. She could weave the most beautiful silk, embroidered with dragons and unicorns that looked like they would leap right off the fabric. The third daughter, Three, was the complete opposite of Seven. She was unkind and lazy and would spend all day doing one task just to get out of doing any work. One day, the farmer went to town to sell some of Seven's silk. Three was tending to the rice field, pushing the dirt around lazily with her hoe, when a golden snake slithered up against her foot. She jumped back in disgust and raised her hoe high. It just so happened that Seven was coming out to fetch her sisters for lunch. She saw what was happening and rushed out to save the little snake, releasing him just outside of the rice fields. He wiggled his way up to a nearby cave where he twisted and he stretched until he became an enormous golden dragon. There he waited. When the farmer was coming back down, the dragon leapt out and wrapped his claws around him. He desired one of the farmer's daughters to be his bride. The farmer was terrified, but when his eldest came searching for him, he asked her if she would marry the dragon. She turned tail and ran as fast as she could to hide, as did his next five daughters. Finally, Seven came searching for her family. Her father made the same request, and seeing the distressed state he was in, Seven agreed. The dragon released her father, and she climbed up on the dragon's back. They shot up into the sky and danced among the stars until they came to a vast ocean, where the dragon dove right in. They passed glistening towns with coral gardens and dark forests made of kelp until they came across a golden castle. When Seven climbed down from the dragon's back, the dragon wrapped his claws around her and said, "I could hurt you. Are you not afraid of me?" Seven looked into the dragon's eyes and said, "The eyes see what's in front of them, but the heart sees what is true. If you wish to hurt me, you would have already done so." The dragon was so happy with her response, he danced and he danced until a golden light engulfed him. And when he stepped out, he was a handsome prince. Seven and the dragon happily married, but after some time, Seven was sad. She missed her family and she feared that they were suffering without her. So the dragon urged her to return home, and Seven gathered up a whole bunch of gifts for her family. Dressed in her finest silk robes and jewels in her hair, she went down and bowed to her father, and greeted her sisters. Everyone was so happy to see Seven. Everyone except for Three. Three was jealous. The days passed quickly, and Seven had to return home, but just before she left, Three begged her sister to let her try on her silk robes. And they went down to the river, peered over the edge to look at the reflections. Three picked up a rock and hit Seven in the back of her head, pushing her in. She went back to her family and told them that she was going to pretend to be Seven, and if they told the dragon otherwise, they would get eaten. Her family was terrified, so they went along with the act, and Three returned to the palace in Seven's place, in disguise. But the dragon knew something was wrong. His wife didn't remember where anything was, and she looked different, but most importantly, she was unkind. So the dragon donned his human form and went searching across the lands until one day he came across an old woman selling a pair of silk shoes embroidered with golden dragons dancing above the waves. He bought the shoes from the old woman and followed her home secretly. There he found his wife. He was overjoyed, ran to her and gave her the biggest hug and said, "I knew she was an impostor, for the heart sees what is true." The dragon returned home with Seven and the old woman who cared so well for his beloved. He kicked out Three, sending her back to her family, and Seven, the dragon, and the old woman lived happily ever after. A fun little fact is dragons in Eastern culture are more like snakes or water serpents. They're long and not like the ones we know. And this story actually reminds me of another girl who has a beautiful shawl embroidered with flowers. Her name is Adelita. This next story is by Tome de Palo, and the book's title is Adelita, a Mexican Cinderella. Um, my version is titled just Adelita. Hace mucho tiempo, a long time ago, a beautiful baby was born. Her father, Francisco, named her Adelita, little Adelia, after her mother who had passed away. Francisco raised Adelita with the help of Esperanza, who had taken care of him when he was a little boy. Time quickly passed, and Adelita grew into a beautiful young woman. One day, her father came home with some big news. He had fallen in love with the beautiful Donna Michela de la Fortuna, and they were going to get married. Adelita was happy for her papa, but Esperanza was suspicious, for Donna Michela and sus hijas, her daughters, treated Adelita very coldly. When the two families merged, the house was fuller, but Adelita didn't feel like her family had grown, for her stepsisters were cold to her, and it was obvious that Donna Michela preferred her real daughters. One day, her father grew sick, and sadly, he passed on. But Adelita wasn't alone. She still had Esperanza. So when Donna Michela piled on chore after chore until Adelita was doing the work of a maid alongside Esperanza, Adelita wasn't unhappy because she still got to hear tales of her papa and her mama from Esperanza, and she had so much fun with Esperanza. But one day, Donna Michela called Esperanza and Adelita into the main room. Esperanza, I can no longer afford you, so I'm going to have to let you go. Adelita can do the chores from now on. Esperanza was devastated. She begged, "Oh, please, Donna Michela, please don't send me away. I'll work for free. Just let me stay with Adelita." But Donna Michela was having none of it. She sent Esperanza away, and Adelita was left truly alone. One day, Donna Michela got an invitation to a fiesta, a party, being held for a merchant's son who was returning home. She was so excited, for she heard that the merchant's son, Javier, was looking for a wife, and she hoped to marry off one of her daughters to him. So she spared no expense getting her daughters ready. She dressed them in beautiful clothes and had someone do their hair to send them off to the party. Adelita begged to go, but Donna Michela just pointed out her clothes. She had nothing to wear. She would have to stay home. Adelita was very sad, for her and Javier used to be friends, and she had been so sad recently. She was looking forward to seeing a friend. She cried all by herself at home until there was a knock on the door. And when she opened it, it was Esperanza. She brought Adelita a beautiful white dress and a beautiful red rebozo, a shawl embroidered with flowers. Adelita dressed, and Esperanza took her to the party, where she was able to dance with Javier all night long. She immediately captured his attention. But when it struck midnight, Adelita had to hurry home, for she had to beat her stepfamily home. She didn't want them to know she had snuck out to the party. She got home moments before her stepfamily, and her stepmother came in complaining about the mysterious girl who had stolen Javier's heart. Adelita was very happy. Even more so the next day, when she heard that Javier was looking for the mysterious woman he had danced with. She hung her red rebozo outside the window and waited for Javier to come to the house. She descended the stairs wearing the outfit she had worn when she danced with Javier, and the two lived feliz para siempre, happily ever after. I had a lot of fun with this story because I myself am Hispanic, So it was fun to find a story and figure out a way to adapt it. But thank you so much for listening to my tales. I hope you enjoyed them.